Welcome to the Savvy Woman Show. I'm Catherine Magana, a certified financial planner professional, here with Rachel Ivanovich, a tax strategist and wealth advisor for Savvy Woman Wealth Management, where we educate, inspire, and enlighten women into being educated investors, as well as help them with their financial futures. The purpose of the Savvy Woman Show is to really interview and meet amazing women like the ladies we have here with us today. We want to hear your real life stories. We've interviewed business owners, advocates, authors, and much more. We hope that some of these real life stories will give you a better idea of some of the things that we can help you with and our guests can help you with. So let's go ahead and introduce them.
So today we are going to interview Dr. Erica Ollmann Saphire and Dr. Gina Kirchweger from the Jolla Institute for Immunology. Dr. Erica Ollmann Saphire, Ph.D., MBA, has officially begun her term as president and CEO of La Jolla Institute for Immunology. I think that was 2015. No, you were 2015. You were 2019?
2021.
2021, okay. So Dr. Gina Kirchweger joined the Institute in January 2015 and serves as the Chief Communications Officer and Chief of Staff. So welcome today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. We had an opportunity to meet Erica at the Cool Woman event recently, and we had an opportunity to chat for a few minutes, and we're really inspired, wanted to hear more. So why don't we start off and maybe each of you share kind of your background and a little story about each of you. Let's start with Gina.
Well, sure. My first job is that I'm a research professor, and in my laboratory, we look at the molecular workings of viruses in the immune system to figure out where viruses are vulnerable and how we can design vaccines and treatments against them. Okay. And my second hat is the president and CEO of a nonprofit private research institute called La Jolla Institute for Immunology. So La Jolla Institute is a think tank. So we're about 450 staff and 25 faculty. And these professors are the best in the world at understanding all the different facets of the human immune system and how all the different arms and pieces of your immune system work together to keep you healthy against infectious disease, cancer, heart disease, brain health. And when I became president to lead these faculty forward, Gina and I initiated a year-long bottom-up strategy process by which we arrived at something exciting we'd like to talk about. Gina?
Can't wait.
Yeah. I started out as a research scientist myself a long, long time ago. I actually worked with viruses. And then I decided to make the switch to science communication. And ever since then, I've worked at research organizations. And since 2015 at the La Jolla Institute for Immunology, which kind of brought me back to my first love, where viruses. So now I keep spreading the word about the great work that's happening at the Institute.
Viruses and spreading the word.
So
How
did you decide to go into these careers, and what inspired you? Did you have a family member, or just how did you end up?
Well, on the research hat, both my parents were public school teachers. And so the best thing about being a public school teacher is June, July, and August.
Yes.
And so they had a lot of time off. And so they would take us on 6 or 8 week camping trips through every national park, national forest, whatever, up both coasts into Canada and Mexico. And so I just loved the natural world. And so I went on to double major in biochemistry and at a larger scale, ecology and evolutionary biology. And I was always fascinated how little changes at the molecular level can spill over and become large effects. So how some mutation in a virus can cause it to infect new species and spill over in the forest. And then in the immune system, how single changes help your immune system adapt and evolve to keep abreast of these things and keep you healthy. So that's how I came to research. And then I just loved the environment of working at a nonprofit research institute because we can just absolutely focus on our passion of this discovery, and the things and the level of science and insight and discovery that come out of places like La Jolla Institute is really transformative. And I moved to La Jolla Institute for the previous leadership, Mitch Cronenberg, and then right after I signed the offer, he said, "Well, I'm going to step down and retire." What?
Oh,
no.
Okay. That door open for
that
you.
doesn't work for me. You got to step right back up. And when I realized he was committed to retiring, I thought this place was so special, and the opportunity for human health was so tremendous that somebody needed to take very good care of the institute.
And that's
and
you.
So I immediately enrolled in a MBA program at UCSD. So
Smart.
at night and on the weekends
They've
for a
got
couple years.
Great program.
Yeah, I got an MBA to add all that business and legal and financial knowledge that you need to propel an institute in addition to the Ph.D. bench science. And then when I came to the office, I was looking around at my colleagues, and these are the best people in the world. You know, this little gem in La Jolla is top 5 globally in this kind of research.
Wow.
We're just right there in, you know, on the UCSD Med Center campus and top 5 in the world. But everyone was looking at, you know, their own area, and there were some collaborations. And Gina and I really thought together, what could we build that's greater than the sum of these parts? If we could align all these vectors in one direction, what is it that really unites all of these scientists? How do we make larger leaps than 25 people can alone? Now, instead of 25 oars going in 25 directions, maybe 15 directions, what if we all rowed in one?
And what happened?
And Gina, how did you come to this?
Oh, I grew up on a farm in Austria, so I was always interested in the natural world. And when I first learned about DNA, I thought it was the most fascinating thing. So if you have 4 letters and it spells out life and it codes for everything. So I decided to study biology. And from there, once I was at the university, I was just intrigued by research and finding out things. And that's why I decided to become a scientist. And then I came to the US as a postdoc, first at the Sloan Kettering Center, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. And that's when I decided, you know what, actually, I don't have to be the one who finds out the things for herself. I want to tell the world about it. And that's when I switched to science communication. I applied to the science communication program at UC Santa Cruz. Against all odds, or against all hope, I got in. And I loved it from the first moment. And
It's a beautiful area of the world.
Oh my
too.
God, yes. I had never been to the West Coast.
Santa Cruz.
And Santa Cruz was just lovely. And then we ended up in San Diego. My husband is a research scientist. It was his work that brought us here. And I started working in the science communication offices at independent research organizations. And ever since I've been at the La Jolla Institute, I think it's just the most amazing place. As I mentioned earlier, because we work on viruses and how the immune system tries to defeat them, but also because I got to work with Erica. And I think it's just been a wonderful journey that we've had together so far.
Oh, thanks.
So you're both quite accomplished and have received many awards. Tell us maybe a little about one or two that you're most proud of.
The Presidential Early Career Award in Science and Engineering. So the people that manage my grants at the National Institutes of Health nominated me for this, and it was awarded by President Obama. And the great story there is the scientists that were getting the award were all lined up in there's this room in the White House where they take a lot of photos. It's kind of gold and white wallpaper. You'd recognize it. And so we're all lined up in that room waiting for him to come in to have his picture taken with us. And then we just see there's a dude walking down the hall. And it's not just a dude, it's the dude. And so then the dude comes in and, he's fist bumping everybody. And then he, we're lined up by height. So the women are in the front, more or less, and the men are in the back. And I'm kind of in the middle. And so he comes to stand in the front. And of course, because we're lined up by height, it's like, gosh, as a father of 2 daughters, I am so happy to see so many women here getting this award. And I told him his daughters could come and work in my lab. And he said, "Oh, think about that." Yeah. I didn't tell him at the time it was an Ebola virus lab.
So did they come?
They did not come.
Oh, darn. Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
And so what about you, Gina?
So since I switched from research to communication a long time ago, but there's one interesting story now looking back. So during my master's thesis, I worked on breast cancer. And so I published a paper as first author, and then that paper was the best paper that year at the university in that specific area. So I got an award. So
Wow.
I got a letter from, I don't even know who it was, director, someone university
important.
official,
Yes.
and they addressed me as Mr. Dr. Kirchweger. I'm like, no,
no.
wait a minute.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they automatically assumed I was a man.
Wow. And so
did they ask for more data when they found out you're a woman?
No, they did not,
Okay,
but I
good.
made a big stink. My youthful, exuberant, self-righteous personality.
I love that. That's a great story.
So I see you focus on the immunology. So could you just give us like a 101 or like a little brief on that?
Immunology 101.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Dr. Gina Kirchweger.
So the thing about, so we all know about the immune system, right? And so, but when you think about the immune system plays an incredible role in our day-to-day health, right? When you think about disease, it's almost always the immune system is behind it. If it doesn't work properly, we get infected by a virus. If it does too much, we end up with autoimmune disease. Right? So no matter how you look at it, it's always the immune system that's behind it. Either it's working not well enough or it's doing too much of a good thing. And so what we are trying to find out really is how can we either help the immune system do a better job when it comes to infectious disease, or how can we teach the immune system to ignore our own tissues, which it attacks during autoimmune disease.
That's fascinating. Wow.
The immune system has this really impressive precision and power and speed alike. So if you think about the precision, think about an antibody molecule. So an antibody is shaped like a Y, and it's got two arms, and at the arms there are fingers, and at the fingers there's like fingerprints. And so an antibody is truly specific for one particular place on one particular pathogen with fingerprint-like recognition, right? If you look at all the humans, no fingerprints alike. You can make one with 18 zeros after it, that many different kinds of antibodies. So the precision it can come up with is stunning. And then the power and the speed are pretty impressive too. If you think about the speed with which somebody can go into anaphylactic shock if they eat something that they're allergic to, shellfish or whatever, that's the immune system doing that.
Right.
So you can mount that kind of reaction and that kind of strength. That's not the reaction you want, but that is the power behind that engine. And the ability of your immune system to find and scrub out individual infected cells or tiny clusters of cancer cells that would be too small for any scalpel to ever find is really stunning. And that's a power and a precision that we want to harness.
So our discussion that afternoon at the Cool Women event, we were both so impressed with our discussion. When we drove home thinking about the discussion that we had about men's and women's immune systems and how you were explaining to us that you were researching the difference between men's and women's immune systems and the biology. Could you go into a little detail about that?
Yeah, this is actually really interesting. I grew up thinking that blood cells were blood cells and that we were not different from men except for our reproductive systems. But actually, we're genetically hardwired differently in every cell that we have. So every single cell you have is either XX or XY. Your brain is XX or XY. Your heart is XX or XY. Your lungs are XX and XY. Your skin, XX or XY. There's a lot of immune genes on that X chromosome. And so if you are a person with one X chromosome, you have one flavor of those immune parts. If you're a person that has two X chromosomes, half your cells make one and half your cells make your other. So you've got twice the colors in your palette. So twice the variety of complexity of immune responses you can mount. We have also learned, this is slightly technical, but in high school biology you learned, well, what do you do with cells that have two X chromosomes? One is randomly chosen to be inactivated. That's called dosage compensation. Except not the whole X is inactivated. Really only about 75% of it. What is left firing? A lot of immune genes. So in your XX female cells, a lot of your immune genes are firing two copies at the same time. And it's not just what's encoded, but how much, it's not just what engine is there, but how much fuel and what type is in that engine. So hormones tell genes whether to turn on or turn off or ramp up or ramp down. And estrogens are in general immune activating, while androgens, like testosterone, are in general immune suppressive. So women make a more complex and more powerful immune response than do men. We actually differ in the number and type of immune cells that we make, and the strength and speed of our immune responses.
Is that why I'm healthier generally than my husband, or why he gets sick more often?
That's exactly why.
Interesting.
So with this technology, do you see obviously a shift then in medicine? I mean, the way things are being looked at and prescribed, and like, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you may have heard about the White House initiative on women's health. And so there's a lot of momentum right now to really take a close look what makes women different from men and vice versa, because if we can study that, it will help us both, not just women, but also men, if we really try to figure out what the differences are and how we can put them to work to find new treatments that are really in tune with biology.
So if you look at the strength of a response, an analogy I like to use is that, in response to some threat, a man's immune system will mount an army, and a woman's immune system will mount the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. So if you're thinking about a drug that will inspire immunotherapy against cancer, the same dose might give you too much and give you adverse side effects in women. And so, women often have to drop out of therapy because they can't tolerate the side effects. It's too much. And dropping out of therapy means you're not taking advantage of the therapy. The same dose that might be too much for a woman may not be enough for a man. So if you try to get the same dose, it's not enough to be helpful in a man, and it may be too much and not helpful in a woman. And if you try to dose by body weight, well, that doesn't really work either, because women are not small men and men are not large women.
Oh, I just processed that. Okay, yeah.
We're hardwired differently.
That's so fascinating. I want to go back to school now and be a scientist. It's never too late, right?
Never.
Is there anything else that you're working on right now that you want to share, or anything else that about?
Well, how this entire research initiative came about at the Institute was a really interesting process. So Gina has communicated the Institute's research for years, and she had this wonderful 30,000-foot view of how all the things fit together. And we knew that with the best minds in this field rowing in the same direction, we could make greater leaps. And so we wanted to figure out how we could develop unified directions for the Institute to move, to make bigger advancements. And so how do you get a lot of people all talking together about where they want to go together? And your first thought is brainstorming. Let's all get together and brainstorm. But have you ever been in a 25-person brainstorming room?
A lot of ideas.
Yeah.
Too many.
No solutions.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you might hear the loudest two people.
Yeah.
And you don't hear the still waters run deep people. Or you don't hear the younger people. But you need to hear the younger people because they're the ones carrying any strategy forward. Or people tend to focus on the first thing said and keep perseverating on that. So we went through a process called structured brainwriting, where we asked the faculty to come to smaller groups, groups of 4 or 5, with the answers to a couple of questions. What's the future of our field? What do you want your scientific legacy to be? Things like that. They came and they put them down on paper, and then they rotated the paper one to the left. So this is the thing that professors do best is, quiet thinking. They're reading their colleagues' ideas and dreams for their lab, and what in that resonates with your dreams for your research. How do you build on that? Write it down. Rotate the paper one to the left. Okay, now someone's dreams, and how does one of your colleagues amplify that, and now how do you amplify on that pair of comments? And then from that, it fostered a series of really lively discussions. And then we recorded the transcripts, and then Gina and I listened to them over and over again over one Christmas break. And then from there, we formulated different research directions. And the one that was really striking, because it unified everybody's research in the building and was just so resonant with a major gap in understanding health research, was this difference between males and females. And it was important to everybody's research because everybody that works in human cells, well, guess what? Those human cells are either XX or XY. If you're studying mice, well, those mice, they're also XX or XY. And all these sex and gender differences go down all the way down to sea urchins.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah. In every species, the female has a stronger immune system. And there's so many different reasons why we evolved to be that way. But what we loved about this is that it fundamentally addressed, it was Central to immunology, because the differences in the X chromosome and the hormones have particular differences in the strength and power of the immune system. There are reasons why women evolved to have a more powerful immune system. And because the immune system plays a central and controlling role in nearly every human disease, it was just something of such crystal clear, fundamental importance that united all of our faculty. And it resonated so strongly with what the world needs in improved medical care and scientific understanding of our own bodies that it was absolutely the way we should go.
As you're sharing that, what comes to mind is, we work with a lot of clients that are men and female, and we obviously have a passion for helping women learn about money and investing. What we find is the view is a little different, and the way that women think about money and just investing, and the approach. So it's just, I think, at the end of the day, all of us have access to the same information. It's just how do we use it, and then how do we adapt, because all of us have different needs, and I think sometimes we get put in a little square box that this is the way it's supposed to be, but the reality is it could be different for men and women, and based on for us, we want women to feel comfortable about money and investing, and we've been in a very male-dominated industry for ourselves, and we're trying to break that mold and really make it fun and engaging, and the more you feel comfortable about talking about the differences, and then I think understanding what's available to you. So there's a lot of, even though we're in a different field, but I definitely can relate to some of the different concepts, and especially with some of the clients that we work with.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have several workshops that we put on for women, our Savvy Women series, where we bring women together and we do exercises. So it's very interesting how you're talking about the XX and the XY. And I'm just thinking, okay, does that X also have the chromosome? I would love to learn more about the chromosomes and how they have why we're wired the way we are as women, versus how men are wired. Beyond just the immune system, I'm sure that the differences go deep.
It's really fascinating, and you and your listeners are welcome at our institute anytime. We'd love to have you. You can come and meet the scientists and tour and peer down our microscopes and learn these different things.
Let's do a little excursion.
Yeah, we should do a field trip.
I think this new information is of fundamental importance, not just for health, but also our economy. If women are 51 or 52% of the population, and women control 60% of the wealth and make 80% of the consumer healthcare decisions, women are an essential economic force for the health of the nation. And if diseases of women have been underappreciated, underdiagnosed, undertreated, or we're trying to dose things simply by body weight without understanding the inherent biological differences, it truly is like trying to make one pair of pants fit everybody. It just doesn't. And so
it's not a one size fits all. No, I agree 100%.
No, it's not. And so this is important information for your livelihood. It's important information for how long you live, and how and how long you're going to have and enjoy and invest the money that you have, and how long you can be a healthy contributing member of your family and your workplace and your society.
Well, that's absolutely true. When we do financial plans, typically, what do we say? Women live how much longer on average than men?
Yeah, the life expectancy is a lot longer, so we have to plan for that. So that's definitely something we consider. So as we're kind of wrapping up here, I thought obviously you both are amazing and go-getters and have very strong leadership. Perhaps you can share with us some tips for somebody that maybe wants to be, in your role or take a leadership role, and how you kind of got there. If there's some tips you would give somebody.
Gosh, I would say follow what you most want to do. You're going to get a lot of advice, and people's advice is based on their own experience, and it may or may not apply to you. But if you follow what is most compelling to you, people will see and feel your passion. And if you're doing something that is very meaningful to you and that you believe in, you're going to apply whatever extra effort you need to get there.
That's wise.
for you?
Based on my own experience is, I would say, don't overthink it. Because our life is the result of thousands of little decisions we make every day. And we will make those small decisions we will decide what works best for us in the moment. But I also feel that in aggregate, they will get us where we are meant to be. So I would say, especially if you're young, don't stress out about it. You have plenty of time. There will be opportunities. You just have to be ready to grab them. Or maybe you decide it's not the right opportunity, but it's okay. There will be other decision points along your life. Because I've never thought I will end up where I am today. But here I am, and I'm very happy and very excited about what I do.
We can tell. It's obvious. So do you just peer down microscopes or do you do things for fun? Do you have any hobbies besides science?
So we actually ended up with an avocado farm out in the East County. So we have a lot of fun there. And we like to travel, actually. So we like to go places.
Where's the next trip?
The next trip, I don't know yet. But we just came back from a trip looking at cave paintings down in Baja, which was super exciting.
Sounds fun.
Nice.
And what about you? What do you do for fun?
I am quite a cook.
Oh.
I like to cook, I like wine, and I love to walk, especially outside and in the woods.
We're coming to your house.
I know. I like good food and wine. I don't like to cook, though.
And you can tell us all more.
You can do the dishes.
I love doing the dishes.
that one.
Me too. That's fun.
Well, thank you, Erica and Gina, for a great interview today and discussion. We really appreciate your time. Can you just give us maybe your website or a way that we can check out some of this additional research?
Yes, you can visit the website of La Jolla Institute for Immunology. It's lgi.org, and you have all the information there. But just feel free to drop us an email. All the emails that go to general emails on the website will come right into my inbox, and I'm more than happy to tell you more about the Institute, about our research, and if you would like to visit, you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, we'll definitely take you up on that.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like it'll be a lot of fun.
It's coming up.
So I think we're going to end with a quote.
I don't have the quote, Catherine,
Okay.
today.
All righty. Well, once again, we were really excited to have both of you
I got so
here.
excited about the X's and the XYs. Maybe one of you ladies have a quote for us today. Maybe one of the best quotes you've ever heard. Best piece of advice you've been given.
One that's been resonating with me recently is, it's not a quote as such, but it says, if nothing ever changes, nothing ever changes. And I think that's very fitting when we are trying to figure out what makes men and women different when it comes to the immune system, right? We need to change the way we look at that.
I love that.
Right. Well, we've come to the end of our Savvy Woman show. Rachel Ivanovich and myself, Catherine Magana, want to thank you for joining us today. And remember, knowledge is power for successful investing. Never stop learning and savvy up. Please stay tuned for important regulatory disclosures.
Savvy Women Wealth Management is an SEC registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry and how we may be able to assist. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. As always, please remember investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. Tax considerations presented may not be appropriate for every individual circumstance. A tax professional should be consulted before making any decisions about your tax liability.